What is up, everyone? It's Alex. In this video, I'm going to go over some basics on motorcycle suspension, okay? First off, it is great to be back. I know it's been like a week since I put out a video for you guys. I apologize. Last week just sucked. I was sick. The family was sick. I had to go on army duty. It happens, okay? But thanks for being patient with me through all that kind of stuff. And I'm back. And I'll tell you what, I have freaking missed you guys. Anyway, moving on. So I got a couple of comments recently that kind of made me realize I haven't done a really good job yet explaining motorcycle suspension and kind of how that relates to how you experience a motorcycle.
To the sound of a heartbeat pounding away, to the rhythm of the awful rusting machines.
So this is going to be a video on some motorcycle suspension basics just for people out there that kind of don't really get it yet. If you're looking for really in-depth suspension stuff, this is not going to be the video for that. Maybe I'll do a video for that later. This is just going to be some suspension basics. Basic motorcycle suspension, okay? So to a lot of people, motorcycle suspension, people that are kind of newer to it or haven't really delved into it, motorcycle suspension can be like this weird, crazy, witch doctor voodoo nonsense they don't really understand. It's actually really basic, okay? So on all motorcycles, or on most motorcycles I should say, you've got front and rear suspension. I know some people do like custom hardtail choppers and stuff, don't have a rear shock on them. The manliest of men and manliest of women ride those. Anyway, most motorcycles have front and rear suspension, okay? On the front, you're gonna have, on the vast majority of motorcycles, you're gonna have a set of forks. I understand there are some stuff out there like, you know, BMW telelever front suspension guys. I'm looking at you, you know what I'm talking about. For most of us, we have forks on the front of our motorcycle, okay? And they're either gonna be in a traditional fork, or they're gonna be in an inverted fork, meaning upside down fork. Most of your cruisers and non-performance motorcycles will have a traditional fork. Most of your performance-oriented motorcycles will have an inverted fork. I'm not going to get into why that is right now. I'll get into that in a separate video, but just know that's what forks look like. On the back of your motorcycle, you're going to have a rear shock or rear shocks. Some motorcycles have a rear monoshock up underneath in the middle. Usually your sport motorcycles will have that. Other motorcycles have two external shocks on the outsides of them. Usually your cruisers, your classic motorcycles, a lot of that kind of stuff. Like in the Harley world, your Dyna series of bikes, your Sportsters will have external shocks. Your Softails and your touring bikes will have an internal monoshock system on them, okay? One. So, what does your suspension do for you? What your suspension is, in the absolute simplest terms I can think of, is your suspension is the translator between you and your motorcycle and the road, okay? Your suspension really makes a difference and really helps in how you experience the motorcycle ride and your comfort level and your feedback from the road. Yeah, most of your cruisers and less performance-oriented motorcycles will have a softer suspension so that you will have a more comfortable and soft, cushy ride, okay, and not feel the road so much. More of your sport-oriented machines will have a stiffer suspension that allows you to feel the road more and get more of that feedback from the suspension so that you can adjust and ride properly in a sports scenario, okay? So that's kind of how that works. Now the vast majority of suspension can also be adjusted, okay? And sometimes if you get a bike, you will need to adjust the suspension or have the suspension adjusted for your weight. Most motorcycles are manufactured and set up for kind of a target weight range from the factory. On your sport bikes, that'll be kind of a lighter weight range because most of your sport bikes are made with kind of racers in mind. Most of your super sports are, and those are generally lighter little jockey type dudes. So if you're buying a sport bike and you're a really big heavy guy, you may want to have someone set up, or if you're mechanically inclined, you can get a service manual and do it yourself. You may want to set your suspension up or have someone set your suspension up better for your weight. Especially the rear shock. A lot of times your rear shocks will have several adjustments, stiffer or softer from factory. Factory will usually be set right in the middle, and you can go several clicks on that rear shock, stiffer or softer based on your weight. If you're a lighter rider, you might want to set your stuff up a little bit softer on the suspension so that you're getting so it's absorbing a little bit more of the impact from the road. If you're a heavier rider, you're probably going to want to have your suspension stiffened up a little bit so that you're not, you know, overextending and what I call wallowing out on the motorcycle, okay? It can cause issues. So that was actually a big thing in like some of my big bikes for beginners videos that I missed that someone pointed out is part of it is having a bike whose frame is big enough to carry a bigger person and a bike who will allow you to stretch out more and be more comfortable as a bigger person. The other part of that is having the suspension set up for you if you are heavier so that you have a better riding experience. Your suspension is what provides you with just as much riding experience as your motor and your transmission. Those three things really work together. I mean, your frame and chassis has a little bit to do with it too, because frames and chassis can be different, it can provide a different ride to them, but the three things that make up the biggest parts of your riding experience are motor, transmission, and suspension. Suspension is actually a really big component that a lot of people miss out on. Anyways, suspension basics, guys. Ask questions if you have them. Put them in the comments below. You guys have been getting really good at doing that kind of stuff. Lots more videos to come. Great to be back. I've missed you guys. Peace.